The Democratic Party of St. Martin extends sympathy to the governments and people of the countries hit by Hurricane Beryl. We are deeply saddened by the devastation left in its wake. We join the region and the international community in expressing profound compassion with our brothers and sisters in the region who have been struck by the fury of Hurricane Beryl. Our thoughts and prayers are with the governments and people of Grenada, Carriacou and Petite Martinique in particular, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Some of us in St. Martin seem to be totally oblivious to what is happening on our island and around us. But there is the need for urgent and undivided attention to the threats of a higher than normal 2024 hurricane season. We also watched with much concern the track of this monstrous storm and the islands in its path. St. Martin is no stranger to ferocious storms, and we know firsthand what it feels like to be at the mercy of storms that clock up speeds that exceed scale measurements. It is good to see that Caribbean countries and institutions have sprung into action, and I join the call on the international community to urgently assist in these efforts. Every effort counts and time is of essence. This early and deadly storm is a stark reminder that climate change is real and that recovery in the region seems to be a constant. No sooner is one island out of the malaise caused by severe weather or other disaster than another is dealt a reeling blow. We have to stand together. And as a stark reminder, we in St. Martin know it. We've felt it. For the entire region, it is a time of anxiety, increased by the fact that hurricanes continue to break records and defy weather patterns. We must continue to hope for the best, but be prepared for the worst. We must continue to stand together as a region and put mitigation at the top of the national agendas.
Of Jamaica hunkered down today as heavy rains and punishing winds from Hurricane Beryl pounded the island. Power was out across much of the capital, Kingston. The center of the Category 4 storm passed just south of Jamaica this afternoon. At least 6 deaths have been attributed to Beryl since it began its march through the Caribbean earlier this week. New images reveal the extent of the devastation brought by the record-breaking Hurricane Beryl after the storm slammed into islands across the southeast Caribbean on Monday with heavy rain and ferocious winds.
It's hard to think about it. It's hard to see it. And I don't even want my enemies to go through such a devastation. It's really tough.
Communities left with no water or power, boats tossed onto the shore, and entire neighborhoods reduced to mangled heaps of metal.
This is actually the strongest storm that we've had come through St. Vincent in my lifetime.
Marlon Gibson lives in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, which took a direct hit.
You're really just hoping for the best. And all around me, there were houses in the village. Their roofs were flying past. You could see it passing. It was just a terrifying experience.
Nearly all of the residents of one of St. Vincent's small islands were left homeless. With nowhere to go, many are now making their way to the capital, Kingstown. Sharon DeRoche is among them. She rode out Beryl in her bathroom.
The whole thing opened up, and it was a hard 4 hours battling.
And in Grenada, the Prime Minister said communications were down and almost nothing was left standing on the island of Carriacou. Satellite images showed a grim before and after from above.
To see this level of destruction, it is almost Armageddon-like, almost total damage or destruction of all buildings, whether they be public buildings, homes, or other private facilities.
Relief efforts by the United Nations, local governments, and nonprofit groups are now underway across the region. Once Beryl passes by Jamaica, the hurricane is set to head next toward the Cayman Islands. It's forecast to reach Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula on Friday morning, and its remnants will likely reach southern Texas by Monday. Seen here from space, Beryl's winds peaked at 165 miles an hour earlier this week, making it the earliest Category 5 storm in recorded history and the strongest July hurricane ever. Its massive size fueled partly by climate change. Michael Lowry is a meteorologist and hurricane specialist for WPLG-TV in Miami.
There's no doubt that the warmer waters are due primarily because of the warming climate, and we are seeing the effects of that in stronger hurricanes. Hurricane Beryl moved over the warmest waters that we've ever recorded in the Atlantic, going back 40 plus years.
This unprecedented storm, Lowry says, is kicking off what's expected to be one of the most active hurricane seasons on record.
The water temperatures going from 80 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit could mean a 5-fold increase in devastating flooding rainfall, on top of the greater potential for these storms to more rapidly intensify.
And as countries in the storm's wake reckon with Beryl's aftermath, weary residents are preparing for a long hurricane season ahead.
FRCM is a technical assistance program implemented by V&G International in cooperation with the government of St. Martin and funded by EU Resembid. Now, to help me delve into this initiative that has been designed to transform crisis management and resilience in St. Martin, my guests are two VNGI representatives, Ms. Eline Vermeer and Mr. Marciano Jans. Eline and Marciano, it's great to have you in the program.
I think fostering resilience, crisis management, it's so important, especially in a context as in St. Martin, where every year, of course, like even now during hurricane season, there's every year a chance that an event like a severe tropical storm or even a hurricane can happen. So then it is extremely important to keep the knowledge on how to deal with such disasters on par all the time. And that's what resilience is, I think, to be prepared at all times for such an event. And that means that there's a necessity to keep training government during the whole year and to keep that knowledge on how to deal with such a situation strongly embedded in the whole organization all the time, even though there might be years where luckily a large storm has not occurred.
Exactly. You know, we can become very complacent, especially when periods of time goes by and a storm does not affect you. But I think the mentality should be moving forward that, again, being conscious of the fact that you live 6 months out of the year in the hurricane season, that preparation should always be taking place and that training should always be taking place. Marciano, explain, what is the Fostering Resilient Crisis Management Project and what does it entail? Break that down for me, because I understand that it's a 4-part or 4-pillar type program. Give us some insight.
Of course. So the Fostering Resilient Crisis Management Project really aims at building the resilience in as many varied ways as possible. For example, we of course come now as an external party, and we try to focus on how to improve this process, but we also want the knowledge to actually remain on St. Martin. Therefore, one of the components focuses on training trainers, which means that the trainers will also have the capabilities to pass on this knowledge after this project is over. Of course, in the event of a crisis, you don't only want to be able to have to rely on your own country, but perhaps also on the surrounding islands. So regional collaboration will also become an important component. And for this, we are also giving several workshops and trainings regarding regional collaborations. Depending on the magnitude of the crisis at hand, you might have to look into what can you actually do and who do you need to activate. At times it might be with the police, at times with the fire department, or with certain ESFs, certain ministries. Well, there's a scaling structure for that, and for this we are also working together. And lastly, how do you share these informations during times of crisis? It needs to be quick. Sometimes you will not have all methods of communication available, let's say if there's no electricity or whatever. So in these cases, how do you share information, or what we call information management? That's the fourth pillar. And with these four pillars, we believe that we have the most comprehensive approach to fostering resilient crisis management.
Of course, the principal stakeholder is the government of Sint Maarten. We work very closely with all departments of the government involved in disaster management. So within government, that's mainly the emergency support functions. They are the various groups within government that are activated once there is a crisis or disaster. And they all have a very specific focus on what to deal with during a hurricane. So some are, for example, more focused at the clearing the physical space, like clearing trees off the streets. Others are more focused on making sure that telecommunications keep functioning or are repaired as soon as possible. But these ESF groups also very importantly include the fire department, the police, the ambulance services. It's really the whole combination of all departments within government that participates in the efforts.
Are you SXM insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXM is cardless. Request your My SXM account today and enter the virtual office of SXM. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
SXM, yeah. Your social health insurances.
Today, it gives me great pleasure to submit an intact list of 10 candidates plus 2 for a total of 12 candidates to contest this snap election. And I just have a few words that I want to say here today as we go into this very rapid election so soon following our January 2024 general election. The Party for Progress are not entertainers. We are not Millie Rosas. We are not paid actors or mouthpieces hiding behind fake names or chatting just to chat. We are politicians, we are professionals, we are leaders who believe in the noble art of politics and leadership. We are daughters and sons of Sint Maarten, of Sint Maarteners. We are concerned citizens who planned and prepared and committed to being your servants because you do not deserve half and half pretenders that play at being leaders. We are your neighbors, your brothers and sisters, your colleagues, your waiters, your nurses, your friends. Maybe you may even think we're your enemy. But we will always tell you the truth instead of fooling you with a lie. And enemies do not tell you the truth. Enemies cover the truth in sugar and fool you into eating it. Enemies pretend to be about integrity and service, but cause war in their own home because of a vote count. Enemies scheme and they plot and they break things because what they want is power. What they need is power, because without it, they are nothing. And you alone can take that power away. We are weary. After all, we were just here a few months ago, guys. But you are exhausted. In January, we asked you to come out and vote, and here we are asking you to do it again. But it's different this time, right? I know you feel it as well. This is a fight for the life of St. Martin, for the lives of you and your children and your grandchildren. You know what you need to do. You need to tell your mother, your brother, your grandfather, your neighbor, your clients, your granddaughters, and everyone that this golden wave, it continues. It is constant, it shifts, and it grows with your help alone. So on Monday, August 19, 2024, choose to come aboard this golden wave, choose the future, and choose progress for yourself and for St. Martin. Thank you. Yeah.
Are you SXV insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXV is cardless. Request your My SXV account today and enter the virtual office of SXV. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
SXV, yeah, your social and health insurances.
Central Bank unable to make the stated dividends for the coming 50 years, leading to a higher peak facility loan for St. Martin and increased interest. The following 3 slides will provide the financial impact for St. Martin, taking into account 3 scenarios. Scenario 1, Mullet Bay sold at 180 million guilders, litigation never coming to fruition, proceeds from claim 0. Scenario 2, Mullet Bay not sold and litigation never coming to fruition, proceeds from claim 0. Scenario 3, Mullet Bay sold at 180 million guilders and claim 1 at 230 million guilders. Scenario 1, outcome according to the signed resolution. If everything goes according to plan, in the event that Mullet Bay is sold at 180 million and there are no proceeds from the litigation, St. Martin's total financial obligation will amount to 119 million guilders. 8 million relating to St. Martin's portion of the peak facility, 49 million which relates to the portion withheld by Central Bank from St. Martin and paid to ENIA directly, which is the 973,000 times 50 years. 62 million which relates to the portion paid by St. Martin yearly to ENIA directly, which amounts to 2 million times 30 years. Adding these amounts give you the financial commitment of St. Martin, which in this scenario amounts to 119 million guilders. This scenario can be considered the scenario whereby everything goes in accordance to the plan and in accordance with the current signed outline agreement. Scenario 2. This scenario, which can be considered the worst case scenario in relation to the signed outline agreement, whereby Mullet Bay is not sold and there are no proceeds from the litigation. This scenario will lead to an additional 11 million guilders added to St. Martin's financial obligation, which is 6.49% of the 180 million guilders. Adding this 11 million guilders to the 119 million will amount to 131 million guilders. Scenario 3, lastly, Scenario 3, which can be considered the best case scenario, whereby the proceeds from the litigation amount to 230 million and Mullet Bay sold at 180 million. In this scenario, St. Martin financial obligation will be lowered by 15 million guilders, which is 6.49% of the 230 million due to proceeds from claim, and the total financial impact for St. Martin will be 104 million guilders. Do note, I have presented 3 scenarios to provide you with insight. There are various possible scenarios both to the benefit or to the detriment of St. Martin's financial obligation in relation to ENIA.
I say thank you for summarizing this in a very easy to digest manner, because it has been some time since the CC, and I really appreciate getting it this way. It literally just listed out everything very, very clearly. When we started the CC, another minister was in your place. That's normal. But one of the questions that I asked back then was about getting an idea. Maybe it's too detailed because I'm a numbers person, getting an idea of really what was coming sort of like on a yearly basis. And it was just to get an understanding of the urgency of what amounts of money were needed from year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5. So is that information that I can review so that we really get the understanding? Because all we're getting still is a full sum amount, rather than looking at the urgency of, well, is all of that amount of money due now, or is all of that amount of money due more towards the end of the term of the lifespan of the persons that are policyholders? Besides that, I was a little bit taken aback. I would like to refer back to a comment that the Minister of Finance made during her presentation, where she mentioned that no dividends were paid out from the central bank since 2019. Now, I just wanted to clarify that really for everybody's understanding. Was it that no dividends were paid out because there was no money made, or were the dividends allocated, applied to something else? That's important for me to understand, because then it allows us to know that there is money still coming from the central bank that could potentially cover this. But it's just really to say why it wasn't. I am not asking specifically for what it was applied to, more so of, we did get it, these were the amounts available to us every year, and then government decided to apply it to something else. Because then it means that we are going to continue this trend of everything that's supposed to come into government will keep being applied to something else, which means that we never do get anything. And then again, I refer back to the whole reason we're here, which is what I mentioned again. The first time we started this discussion in the Central Committee meeting was the fact that we are bailing out a company. We're going to handle the fact that we have a little over 3,000 policyholders on the island that we now have to take care of because of what I referred to as collusion in the past of multiple players, multiple stakeholders. And I need to have assurance that this country won't go down that way again, because it was collusion that took place that brought us to this position.
Last year, March, when this process started, it came to us that from the Netherlands that, hey, we have a situation with ENIA and a solution needs to be found. By July, there was a solution found, and at that time, we all had agreed, and CFA said that no, this will be, it's not the best solution for Curaçao in terms of future financing and the CapEx. So in July, we had to go back to the drawing board and find a new solution. So within 3 months, so July to September, a new solution was found. This current government is already there for, let's say, about 2 months. So you would have had the same amount of time for us, or for yourself, Madam Chair, to find a better solution if there is one. Because the solution that's on the table now is not my solution. is the best solution that we had at that point in time with the data that was given to us at that time. So if there is a solution, and your last statement was, I'm sure you, Madam Chair, that in your opinion, it's not the best solution and we could have found a better one. At the end of the day, through you, Madam Chair, as a Minister of Finance, those are very, very strong words. And I want the best for St. Martin and the policyholders. And I believe all of us inside here also. So I would say that if that's the case, to take the time then and present us with this better solution. You also mentioned that no one from your team was involved, and that's absolutely not true. Unless they didn't inform you, and then they'd be lying. Because your senior legal in your cabinet was the main person or the main individuals that was part of this solution. The main key individuals. So you can't say that no one from your team was aware or part of it, because that key individual was part of this. So I would also like clarity on that. Was that person not involved, and didn't he inform you of the process? In the beginning of your presentation also, you made it clear that you had absolutely nothing to do with this solution. And basically, my interpretation of it is basically you're distancing yourself from that solution. But you can't, it's interesting to distance yourself from a solution or proposal when it's convenient. But if you distance yourself from the Enya solution, but we don't distance ourselves, for example, from an article I read the other day from the Ministry of Finance on the CAPEX and the Receiver's Office, those are also our solutions. The canteen was a brainchild of myself and my cabinet. It was not a brainchild of the current government, but there was no distancing of ourselves from that. There was no distancing ourselves from the vacation pay, the vacation allowance that was the work of, let's say, the hard work of the unions, the CCSU, Ministry of Asset and Finance. So it cannot be at convenience we distance ourselves, and then when there's let's say, a controversial topic, there's a distance.